Hi everyone, my name is Cameron Yuza, and today I will be sharing my opinion on consciousness. Now, before I begin, I just want to recommend, if you haven't seen Joe's video yet, go ahead and watch his, because mine will make a whole lot more sense, because I will be following up with my opinion on the theory that he brought up in his video. So, to take a step back, if you think back about what we've been talking about all semester, about what the dualist believes versus what the materialist believes. And when it comes to consciousness, there is no difference. They still hold different views on the issue. The dualist believes that you can't explain consciousness because it's something other than the physical. And the materialist believes that you can explain consciousness like all other things having to do with the mind and the body. Now, in the text, Mandic proposes two theories on how a materialist might explain what consciousness is, and these are the higher order thought theory and the first order representation theory. Now, throughout this presentation, I will be focusing on one of these theories in particular, the higher order thought theory, and I will be arguing that the hot theory does not accurately explain consciousness, and I will do so by presenting and explaining two of the objections Mandic proposes in the text. First, I wanted to give a little background or a review on what the hot theory is. If you've seen Joe's video, it'll just be a review, like I said. So basically, the hot theory says that a mental state is conscious when one has a higher order thought about it. So what is a higher order thought? If I sit here and I see my laptop sitting on the table, that's what's considered a first order thought. And when I think to myself that I'm thinking about how I see my laptop on the table, that's when it becomes a higher order thought. A main idea of the hot theory is that you can be unconsciously conscious of things, such as my laptop sitting here on the desk in front of me. The hot theory seeks to differentiate unconscious and conscious mental states, and so the main goal of the hot theory is to explain what consciousness is, because if you can explain what consciousness is through a materialist point of view, then consciousness essentially is just composed of matter, like all other things that the materialist is trying to argue. And if you can explain what consciousness is in these terms, then it invalidates the dualist argument on the issue. So there are two objections to the hot theory from the dualist point of view. The first one is that the hot theory is introspectively implausible, and the second is that it is too intellectual. So first, I'm going to be focusing on the introspectively implausible objection. Now, the hot theory says that we are always self-conscious, and it hinges on the fact that we are always, like I said, self-conscious of our mental states. Now, the introspectively implausible argument says that it is far more plausible that we have most of our conscious states without being aware of them. So we can be unaware of our conscious states. In other words, it's unreasonable that we are aware of each and every conscious state that we have, because we have so many of them. The second argument and objection to the hot theory comes in two parts, and it is known as the too intellectual objection. The first part focuses on babies and non-human animals. According to the too intellectual objection, it is plausible that babies and non-humans have conscious states. Now, unlike you and I, however, babies and non-human animals are not cognitively sophisticated enough to have higher order thoughts. Babies, because they grow up to be people just like you and I, will learn the skills and concepts in order to have higher order thoughts eventually, later in life. But when it comes to non-human animals, on the other hand, they will never be able to learn and grasp many of the concepts required to have a higher order thought. So although babies and non-human animals clearly have conscious states, they cannot be aware of those states, which goes against a central argument for the hot theory. Now, I found that the second part of the too intellectual objection was best explained through an example. So I just want you guys to take a minute and look at these two shades of blue. Okay, and we'll get back to that in a minute. So the second part of the too intellectual objection focuses not on babies and non-human animals, but on full-grown human beings like myself and you. And more specifically on non-conceptual content, And nonconceptual content, which Manick defines as a kind of content that is more fine-grained than contents of purely conceptual states, such as beliefs and judgments. And this argues that there is more to the representational content of most of our mental states than can be expressed by the concepts we possess. So in shorter terms, our concepts cannot capture all of the content of our mental states. Now, I want you guys to imagine you're not happy with the color of your room anymore, so you want to go pick out some new paint to go ahead and paint it for next year. When you're in a paint store now, imagine that you're looking at all the different paint samples. You know, they have the big walls and all the aisles that have all the paint samples in them. For each paint sample that you can visually distinguish, you have a different thought process associated with it. So some philosophers argue that we don't have as many concepts as there are colors that we can see. And their evidence for this is because we cannot remember fine differences in color. So if I show you this sample, which one was this? Was this number 1 or was this number 2? If you're not sure, it's okay. That's kind of the point of this. For ease of mind, this was sample number 2. Now imagine that I'd shown you colors as different as red and green. You would have no problem distinguishing which color the sample was more like, because you clearly have different concepts for each. The hot theory assumes that we have only conceptual contents. So this part of the two intellectual objection really works because it argues that there are not enough concepts in our higher order thoughts to fully capture what consciousness is. Now, in conclusion, I believe consciousness cannot be explained because of all these objections proposed to it, especially through the hot theory. So now this isn't the only theory to explain what consciousness is. In Logan's video, he talks about the panic theory, which is another materialist theory to explain what consciousness is. So make sure you go ahead and watch his video so you can fully form your opinion on whether or not you believe consciousness can be explained. Thank you.